Oh, excuse me. And welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday. My name is Michelle, aka the Ignited Teacher. And what I do on Teaching Tip Tuesday is I help educators or math educators like yourself to effectively manage their classrooms and to increase student achievement. And I do that by classroom management strategies with the social emotional learning component. Also, I integrate response to intervention, the math intervention, and small group instruction, as well as project based learning, technology integration, and to top it all off with your increasing your math content knowledge. And tonight I want to welcome you all to Teaching Tip Tuesday. And if you're new here, thank you, thank you, thank you. Leave a comment in the comment section letting me know you're new. And thank you for joining Teaching Tip Tuesday tonight. I'm here every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And let me scoot over. Yeah. So with that being said, you can catch me live, and I try to go live late enough to where if you have some downtime and the kiddies are asleep at 8:30, you know, you can catch me live. Well, the possibility of catching me live on Tuesday nights at 8:30, while you're winding down, or you can catch the replay on YouTube. So on my YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe if you're on my YouTube channel and hit the bell notification so you'll know when I go live and upload videos on my YouTube channel. So thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in tonight. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them in the comment section or tweet to me, because I'm actually live streaming on several different platforms tonight and every Tuesday night. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, and as well as Twitter. So you can definitely catch me on those different platforms. So tonight, let me get my iPad up and going so I don't have to look down. So tonight's topic is a topic of discussion. How can I say this? Progress monitoring. So I'm in a lot of different groups, as probably all of us. We're in different groups. And this comes up all the time. What tool are you using for progress monitoring? How does it work? Some people say I'm using Easy CBM. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But progress, I get this feeling that progress monitoring has become like this, what tech platform are we using? Progress monitoring, although it seems like a huge, word, and it is, but it's not a lot. I mean, I think it kind of has taken on a life of its own. So, you know, it's not supposed to be labor intensive, and I think that it has become that. So, what I'm going to do tonight is explain how progress monitoring can be done a lot more easier than what a lot of people are attempting to do. So progress monitoring it starts with universal screening. So that universal screening, a lot of it is at the beginning of the school year, everybody takes a screener. Well, they're supposed to, because that's how the response to intervention process begins. So a lot of them call it the beginning of the year assessment. And it doesn't have to be like a district benchmark. I remember when I first started teaching, like my 5th year, we started giving like the end of the year star test for our BOY. And we will give another one MOY, and then the last one would be the actual star test. So we no longer do that. We give snapshots that are smaller assessments. Well, the universal screener is supposed to have it where we just screen everybody to see where they are. That's a part of progress monitoring. That's the BOY. Well, within that umbrella of the universal screener, teachers, and you just think about these in little communities, teachers, you know, they start implementing response to intervention, which looks like math intervention. Your small group instruction is your tier 2 intervention under that umbrella. So, what you're supposed to do is progress monitor those students. And progress monitor does not mean, oh, I put the kids on a platform. And I'm going to tell you, progress monitoring should look how your kids are in your classroom, the mode that your children are going to test in. So if they're testing paper and pencil, that's how you progress monitor your kids. If they are testing online testing, that's how you progress monitor your kids. One of the things that I find is a disconnect is that you're saying, oh, well, the kids don't know it, but you're teaching them with paper and pencil, but yet you're going to progress monitor them online, and there's a disconnect. For children that struggle, we try to keep it, or I try to keep it consistent. So if they're online, they stay online. If they are paper and pencil, they get progress monitored paper and pencil. So that's kind of the structure of how it works. The response to intervention, then which is the universal screening. Underneath that is your math intervention, which your progress monitoring. Now we get to the frequency of the progress monitoring. Now, I do cycles, and I have broken it down in my classroom into 2 week cycles. So every 2 weeks, I teach a new skill and I regroup, because what I have found over the course of my time working with kids that struggle, or special ed students, ELL students that struggle, is that they're not blank slates. They have all this information in their heads, and they tend to not know how to access and organize that information. So some of the stuff is there, but it's not. And we have to find ways to get them to organize and and connect with what's on paper. And if it's not there, we teach it and reteach it, or we chunk it, sequence it a little different for the students. So the progress monitoring after that cycle is what you use, but it doesn't have to be a tech platform. People think that it's this huge thing, and it's not. What you do is, after your cycle, the cycle ends in 2 weeks, you give the kids a short assessment. My assessments for progress monitoring, because we have to do state testing, was 4 questions from Fort Ferrier. They had a response to intervention part. If they didn't have that, I cut and paste the questions that I want, because I needed to make sure it was at the level of rigor of the actual assessment. So after every 2 weeks, my kids got an assessment. If they weren't ready to move on, I will regroup them with other children that were still struggling. The other kids that were ready to move on, we started on a different skill. And those are in cycles. Now, you're probably saying, well, what about the tier 3 kids? Well, tier 3 kids, to be honest with you, are not your classroom teacher's responsibility. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't service them. My special ed kids are already tier 3. So those kids were in my tier 2 intervention. But so they got a double dose. They got pulled in my small group, and as well as pulled out. And if you don't have that, you just pull the kids into tier 2 intervention. So the tier 3, that only difference between tier 3 and tier 2 is the frequency of it. Is that they get it more often than the tier 2 students. So that's the progress monitoring in a nutshell. So what I wanted to do is, let me go and share this. Let me bring it up. So what I wanted to share is another form of progress monitoring. A lot of times my teachers that I work with, they think progress monitoring is only the what's the word I'm looking for? Just the actual numbers, and it's not. Progress monitoring takes the form of anecdotal notes as well. That's a form of progress monitoring. And we tend to forget that progress monitoring, it's a qualitative and a quantitative approach, because the qualitative part tells us why the children are struggling. The quantitative part tells us what they're struggling with. So we have the what and the why. So in this blog post on my website, I talk about the drip syndrome, which the drip syndrome is data rich but information poor. So we have all this data, but we don't have any information on the children. So if you go to my website, you can put in the search bar anecdotal notes and it'll come up. But I talk about all the different ways, um, the the purpose, not the different ways, the purpose of anecdotal notes. And that tells you, to provide information regarding students' development. Now, you can't get that from numbers. And that's why I promote this. And I really would like to see more teachers rely on anecdotal notes, because what we do tend to do is go in your those data digs and all you bring is numbers. Well, then you leave yourself left to, your principal question you about the numbers. But if you bring your student work as well as anecdotal notes, I promise you your data dig will go a lot better than it had in the past, because that means that you're paying attention to both what the child is doing and why they're doing it. Because a child scoring low doesn't mean that they don't know the content. A child scoring low may be that the child has chronic absenteeism. It may mean that the student is late, has a tardy, child being picked up, child skipping class. It could be a number of things. Child had high mobility in the child's history. So you have to pay attention to the why as well as what the child is struggling with. And these anecdotal notes will definitely do that for you. So now what I'm going to talk about more in depth about this whole progress monitoring and the tech part. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the tech as far as you using technology for your platform to test your kids. It just needs to match, because we do universal screener, and our special education kids are online. They take their STAR test online. So there you are. But I also progress monitor my kids with anecdotal notes. I look at their student work. I look at all those things. So progress monitoring is, in a sense, it's more than just tracking data. it's really progress, really tracking their achievement and how well they are doing with the interventions that you're implementing. It's not just numbers, and that's why I wanted to talk more about this. It's really tracking their achievement and really paying attention to why and what they're struggling with, because we know what all day long, but we don't ever know why. It could be something simple, that children struggle with. I know some of my students struggle with division. They didn't know where one number went. So it's a number of things that kids can struggle with, but you never know if you're not paying attention to the qualitative piece of what they're doing, how they're working, are they paying attention, are they distracted, and that should be a part of your progress monitoring as well. So in my store, I do have anecdotal notes. It's some templates that you all can purchase to help you progress monitoring pet and keep track of your students' habits. There's tracking your group, where you left off on lessons, how to, sections for anticipated difficulty, long range plan. So it's a lot of stuff in there that I actually use in my classroom today, because intervention is really more about paying attention, accelerating that learning growth, getting the kids on grade level as soon as possible. And that's what response to intervention is about. So you can visit my store and blog at fuelgreatminds.com. There's a picture of it on the screen. And I have my blogs broken down by categories. I have the math instruction, um, classroom management, all those things are there. And also, my YouTube channel is connected to there. And some of the YouTube videos are embedded within the actual um, blog posts. So they have some great things on there, not because I just wrote them, but I do have colleges that embed my blogs into their coursework, because I've had some of their students actually message me or leave comments on my blog. So if you're looking for lesson plans for hard to teach concepts, my throat is dry, hard to teach concepts, then my store is exactly what you're looking for. Like fractions, I have several lessons on there. And don't think because you may be a secondary teacher, oh, well, I don't need that. Well, response to intervention and math intervention isn't on grade level content. It's the content below the actual grade placement. So you need lessons and intervention lessons and strategies to close those gaps, because you're not what's the word I'm looking for? You're actually not conducting intervention at their grade placement level. So if your secondary teacher, math intervention is not on grade level, that's, you know, remediation and it's not intervention. So I hope that you all enjoyed this Teaching Tip Tuesday, and I hope that you got some clarity on progress monitoring, and hopefully it makes your progress monitoring, especially because we're about to go into the end of the year, the progress monitoring a lot easier for you if you see it in a different, not a conceptual, not a procedural way, like, oh, check the box, I have to progress monitor, check the box. No, progress monitoring, seeing it conceptually and how you are actually monitoring the student's achievement or their lack of achievement, so that you can support them, continue with and make instructional decisions to continue with the intervention or to end the intervention. So that's all I have for Teaching Tip Tuesday. Hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section, and I'll see you all in my next live stream.